read this. Let me find it. It's a TripAdvisor question. Somebody from Canada says, "Is the Jailhouse Inn really haunted?"
Obviously. Someone on the internet said so.
Well, so this is Three Thirsty Travelers, Richmond Hill, Canada asks, "Is the Jailhouse Inn really haunted? Having a really hard time finding accommodation for 3 in September, which includes a Saturday, Sunday. Found the Jailhouse Inn. While it looks lovely, a Google search suggests it's haunted. Anyone had any experiences there?" Rhody Rick, this first of all, too, this post is from 10 years ago, so do with that what you will. But Rhody Rick says, "Well, one would think that if ghosts were routinely possessing, decapitating, or otherwise scaring the pants off of unwary travelers, the place would not stay in business that long. So I suspect you have nothing to worry about." Seriously.
Are you kidding me? People will go to see places just because they heard they were haunted.
No shit, I go to places just because I've heard they were haunted. Like, come on.
It doesn't even have to be a credible sourse. You could have just heard it on a fucking radio, on a fucking YouTube ad. Like, you could have heard two fucking people talking. Like,
yeah, right. People having a conversation at a restaurant. You're like, oh,
I'm fucking there.
There's even like AI articles about haunted places in Newport, right? So like, it's and I'm like, give me a break. I mean, now to be fair, if the ghosts are routinely possessing and decapitating guests, sure. I'm not sure where Rhody Rick got that, inclination that, Three Thirsty Travelers is asking whether or not they'll be possessed or decapitated. If they stay at the Jailhouse Inn, I'm not really sure. I feel like that answer escalated quickly. Oh my God. The more I'm reading this, like when I first read it, I was like, that's ridiculous and hilarious all at once. Now I'm even more like, that's incredibly ridiculous and hilarious. All right, so Rhody Rick continues on with, "Seriously, if you are staying somewhere that is purported to be haunted and you are afraid of ghosts, then every sound you will hear will sound like a ghost. Every breeze you will feel like the icy hand of death. So if that's the deal, you should probably stay somewhere else. Otherwise, grab the room. Newport's an old town. If there really are ghosts, there are probably a lot of them here. Never seen one though." So like, Rhody Rick, what the hell are you talking about? He's got all this like, flowery verbiage around hauntings, and then never seen one though. All right, whatever, dude. Oh, so there's some commentary about the Jailhouse Inn. Further down, I didn't. What?
I said, for some reason, I'm picturing Rhody Rick as like a fucking pest control exterminator guy. I don't even know why.
With a truck.
Rhody Rick, I'll get these termites out of here.
Dude, Rhody Rick doesn't talk like a Southerner.
Hey,
he's from Rhode Island. See, I can't even do it. I'm from Rhode Island. I can't even do the accent. Maybe
he just lives in Rhode Island and he's a Southern transplant. Who knows?
As an aside, have you ever seen the, Ian Brownhill? He's the angry Rhode Islander guy with the Duncan. He always has a Duncan, and he's always, doing Rhode Island skits. But have you ever seen him when he breaks the character and he's like goes back to normal guy?
I don't even know who you're talking about, so I don't know. Well, dude, that could be anybody.
All right, fair. Fine. All right, well, look up Ian Brownhill. He's the guy who's always screaming about the weather in New England. And he's in his car with his hat on and like his beanie hat that's like probably Patriots or Duncan or whatever it says on it. And he always wears a shirt that says the weather's better in New England. See, I even say the shirt in the accent. Oh, my God. All right, Newport, ghosts. Here we are. So I want to start with the Jailhouse Inn because I actually know for a fact that the Jailhouse Inn is haunted. And while I don't want to make this about my experiences only,
yeah, there's other people here too.
Other people have ghost experiences they want to share. Anyone else?
I don't mean just me. There's other people in the room.
Is that the ghost?
Talking about the ghosts.
Oh my goodness. All right. So give me some Jeopardy music because my phone's being really slow. Like what
Dun,
happened?
dun, dun, dun,
All
dun,
right.
dun.
Dun, dun. Okay. Jailhouse Inn. So the Jailhouse Inn, it was actually the jailhouse in Newport, and it was built for Newport in 1772, and it replaced. There was a jail there from 1680, like on till 1772, in that same location on Marlborough Street in Newport. And they in 1772 they rebuilt like a bigger one, and throughout the years, it's been enlarged and it's changed hands a time or two and eventually became the Jailhouse Inn. Now, interestingly, way back when, we had a far back relative who was the keeper of the jail in Newport for a time, way back when. And interestingly, fast forward to the freaking 90s, and what's funny is I guess it was renovated, became a hotel called the Jailhouse Inn, and then it was renovated in 2005 after I worked there. I worked there a long time ago as a teenager in the 90s. Whatever. So, and then I found out later about the familial connection, and I was like, wow, that's interesting. So, moving on. So, I didn't know anything about the Jailhouse Inn being haunting at this time, and I didn't even, it's not even a thing I really thought about back then. It kind of grew up in what I felt like was kind of a haunted house a little bit. But other than that, it wasn't really a thing I thought about. So I think it's kind of important to understand like how the downstairs is set up. So it's three floors with a basement. And the basement, it's where like there's I think there used to be two rooms down there. I haven't been inside there since, well, roughly since this happened. So I don't know if it's changed at all, but there used to be two guest rooms downstairs in the basement. And also like the kitchen where like the laundry room, the whatever else, for staff was down there, like cleaning supplies, laundry supplies, all the linens were down there in the kitchen, whatever. So you go down the stairs to the basement. You'll have one room on your left, a room in front of you, and then the door to the kitchen on your left. So if you turn into the kitchen, it's kind of funky, but I think it's important for the story to understand how it's set up. Like as you're standing in the doorway facing the room, let's picture a small rectangle room, maybe we'll say it's 20 by 20. And directly next to the door, the door frame, and going in an L shape on your right is a counter, a kitchen counter with cabinets and like the kitchen sink and everything. To your left is a huge it's like just a big wooden table, and that's where like all the laundry was folded and kept. Like we'd have stacks of sheets on there and things like that. So if you walked between the counter on your right and the table on your left, you would go straight for a couple paces, and then you would have to hook a left to go into the rest of the room. There really wasn't much of a room. It was mostly that walkway and then the dining room table. There really wasn't a room. It was filled with that table. But to get into there, you would walk around the table, and then just past the end of the counter on your right would be the laundry room door. And right next to that was a fridge. So the fridge, my point is that the fridge kind of blocks part of the view. So if you're in the doorway, you can see the laundry room. If you're in the laundry room, you can see the doorway to the kitchen, but you can't see anybody once they walk into the kitchen until they get to the laundry room door. Does this make sense?
Yeah, I get it.
Oh, okay. Because it's I always feel like whenever I explain this, it's odd. So I'm at work, I'm a housekeeper. And I'm in the basement. It's a slow day. It's like a midweek, like a Tuesday or something. It's nothing crazy. Like almost nobody is here. I think I was even the only housekeeper on that day because it was a midweek. So I'm in the laundry room doing the laundry, whatever. And out of the corner of my eye, I see somebody walk into the kitchen. Now I'm thinking, yeah, no, seriously. And this person was wearing, so our uniforms were, we had to wear a white top and black bottoms, so black, black pants, black skirt, whatever. So that was the uniform, and that was the color scheme of what the person was wearing, and it looked like somebody wearing a white top and like a full black skirt. So out of the corner of my eye, I'm like in the dryer, whatever, and out of the corner of my eye, I see somebody walk through the kitchen doorway. And I'm like, oh, it's Susan, the front desk lady. I'm like, oh, it must be Susan. I take a second. I don't see, she doesn't appear at the door yet. And I'm still doing in the dryer. And I'm like, where the hell Susan? So I pop my head out of the laundry room door and like around the fridge, like to see what maybe she stopped at the corner, where the turn is, or, because we had a dishwasher there, like, and counter. Maybe she was just messing around with something on the counter. But I popped my head out and there's fucking nobody there. There's nobody freaking there, dude. So like here I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it now because like it scared the living crap out of me. I took off like running. Of course, I had to go past that spot to get out of the room. It's very tight quarters. It's not like I could scale the table and like get past. So I run upstairs and I go flying into the office. And Susan was kind of like wicked condescending. Like she was pleasant enough, but she could also be like, I don't know, kind of crappy. Like she, especially to us housekeepers, like she wasn't. Sometimes you would encounter like front desk people who just thought they were better than you, like because you were a housekeeper. Like, come on. So I go up and I'm like losing my shit. I'm like scared to death. I go flying into the office and she just turns to me like with this, holier than thou, sitting up straight and looks at me like, how dare you? Don't you have nothing to say to me, peasant. And I'm like, okay, sorry. I just like backed out and back into the stairwell. But I'm like too scared to go back into the kitchen. So I'm standing there for a hot fucking minute, like not knowing what to do because I'm like, I don't have any allies with Susan. But I can't really go back down to the kitchen either because like, what the hell? Like what else am I going to encounter? Like it was terrifying because it was a ghost. That was probably my first major encounter. Actually, I was going to call that my second major encounter, but it was so clear because I could very clear, like it was a full person, and the person came through the doorway, and very very like very regal and graceful, and almost gliding in. Like they weren't, there's no sound, but like glided right in, hands like folded in front, like it was a full body apparition, like, and I didn't look directly at it, but I saw it out of the, in my periphery enough to see those details. And like, I didn't see a face or anything. There was nothing like that, but it was, I mean, I still to this day, this was, what is it, 2025? This was probably 30 years ago. You know what I mean? Like 30 some odd years, almost 30 years ago. And I was young and like, and I still remember every freaking detail. And I have goosebumps like right now, like just talking about it. And of course, like, like
that ghost probably doesn't even remember you.
What the heck?
The hell, ghost.
Thanks a lot. That's it.
You're just one unfortunate human in a long string of hauntings and experiences.
Especially at a hotel. They're like, do you remember that girl who...
You were just one speck in several decades of, appearing in front of the living.
There was one grain on their beach of Spectre, whatever. Yeah, whatever. Whatever.
I'm just kidding. It seems like the ghost probably does this a lot,
Hey, this wasn't the first time.
Maybe
Clearly
it was
not. Well, the
ghost is like, you meant nothing to me.
I go back crying. I thought we had something. All right, so funny story. It's not funny.
I'm fucking dying. Hold on a second.
Dude, you gotta recover better.
What do you say? What do you say?
I said you got to recover better.
No, that got me. It was like, hold on, give me a second here.
I go bursting into the kitchen. Ghost, what happened?
What happened to us? Anywho, anywho, yeah. So you're not really the only one, though. I'm pretty
Oh
sure.
no.
What
I,
other stories? What other stories have you heard out of there?
well, honestly, I haven't heard any. That's the thing. I haven't heard any other stories. And of course, because
At
I
a
work
jailhouse?
there, personal stories, no.
No, not personal necessarily, but
Oh,
like,
like
what are
online?
people? Yeah, what are people saying? Like, just detach it from you and like your circle. Like, I feel like
I
this.
mean,
There's been a number of sightings there,
it
right?
seems like, honestly, what I can find online is that people say that it's haunted, but there aren't that many stories. But, like, I feel like it's one of those things because they're not, I don't think they want it marketed. I'm speculating, but I don't think they want it marketed as haunted because they do think maybe Rhodey Rick owns it and it's like, no, we can't we can't have this stigma on our place. I think that maybe they don't want it marketed as haunted. I think they like the historical kind of what's the word, novelty of like this used to be the jailhouse, and like that by itself gives it a little bit of mystery and whatever. And if you go in there, they still have, well, to my understanding, they still have, the jailhouse bars and things. And there are some things like, that make you think that they're from back in the day. Like, I'm trying to remember that there were signs about like bail and Al Capone and things like that, and like the breakfast room still has jailhouse doors on it, like the bars. Um, and there's bars here and there, like you'll just, downstairs, it just has that feeling. So I think, maybe there's, some wanting to preserve the history of it. And like, it's a cool building. It's a big building. It's historical. It's right in the middle of like historic Newport. It's still one of my favorite places to walk around because it's there's a couple alleys in Newport, and there's one right behind there that I think it's actually a street, but I feel like it's an alley. It's called it used to actually be called Jail Street, and it's one of my favorite places to still walk. It makes me feel like I'm in like an alley and like I don't know I don't know how to describe that, but it's definitely a nice place, and it's a nice hotel or inn. It's an inn. It's expensive to stay at, but I don't think they're trying to like capitalize on the haunted aspect of it. You know what I mean? But I will tell you that it is absolutely haunted, just because of that experience that I had. So
We're ready to believe you.
exactly. See, um, so yeah, that's the jailhouse. What's interesting that I want to say, and again, I'm not trying to just go with my own experiences because there's tons of others, but what's interesting though, if the jailhouse was my second major experience, my first major experience was in Newport. Um, what year was that? I'm trying to think what year we lived downtown. That's all I'm gonna say. But we lived downtown, and oh my god, for the life of me, I can't. Was it like the early '90s we lived there? Maybe. Anyway, I'm just gonna say
Perchance.
maybe it was. It was okay. So the night that we moved in, like we got the keys. And, we're all kids, whatever. We get the keys. We're doing like pizza in the empty house or something just to celebrate, like, oh, we got a house, whatever. So this this house, um, it had a staircase that went up, like the stairs inside the house went up and then curved around to the left, and there was like the upstairs. Um, what I'm trying to say is, if you're standing at the top of the stairs, your shadow will reflect or cast on the wall just at the top right of the stairs. Makes sense. Because I had a few things. Nothing like crazy. This first experience was a little bit crazy. Um, it was definitely like pretty clear to me, but after that, I didn't see any ghosts, but I definitely heard things, and that basement scared the crap out of me regularly. So there was that stuff.
Oh, that basement.
Yeah. So and we could touch on it real quick. Um, all right. So with the stairs, if you're standing at the top of the stairs, like your shadow, like in the bathroom light was on or there was lights on, your shadow would be like somebody would be able to see your shadow if they were standing at the bottom of the stairs. Is kind of my point.
Yeah, for sure.
So you know what I mean. So like we're all in the living room, dining room, whatever the hell room it was, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. So I walk out of the room, and as I'm rounding the bottom of the staircase, I look up at the top of the stairs, and I see the silhouette of it looked like a person, a woman, I'm assuming, wearing a full skirted. It was like a silhouette of a woman wearing a full skirt, very similar to the jailhouse ghost. So maybe, just maybe, it's my ghost, and she doesn't do this to other people. Maybe,
Interesting.
maybe. All right. So another time where I was like, "Oh my fucking god!" I kind of freaked out. I went running back into the room with the pizza and the family, and I remember my mom just being like, "Yeah, whatever," and I'm like, "But." I saw a ghost. Like I think I was 10, So like I never saw anything at that house again like that. I remember hearing things like that house made a lot of noise if I
Mm,
recall correctly.
yeah, it
Like
did. It really did.
it just made, and I'm sure some of that could be attributed, to its age or whatever, but like
Yeah,
I
pipes
oh
and yeah.
well, I specifically remember floorboards creaking. Like very specifically floorboards creaking.
Like when no one's walking on them.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I don't remember anything like that, but I don't know. I always felt something in that house. I never
Oh,
saw
yeah.
anything. I don't remember having any experiences other than just a feeling. Like it didn't feel comfortable. It didn't feel welcoming to be there, you know? It wasn't
Right.
it was yeah, there was I don't know. And I mean it's like what's there in that? I sound stupid if someone's just listening to be like whatever, but it is what it is. I felt like it was probably something in that house. I just never had
No, that's
the
how
experience.
those things work. It's not it doesn't have to make sense. I think that's kind of the point, is that it doesn't always make sense. You know what I mean? So it did have a feeling, and I always remember that effing basement was like, I don't always run up the stairs like something's coming after me.
What?
But when I do, it was at that house. When you get that, when you're coming up the stairs and you get that feeling where you get all scared and you just run really fast.
Mm-hmm.
That feeling, like, and that's happened to me here and there. It actually happens to me in this house sometimes, and I'm like, what the hell? I'm like an adult. You know what I mean? Like, I still am like, all right. But back then, I mean, almost every time I went up those stairs, I had such a creeped out feeling, like in the basement. And I remember telling our little brother that the chupacabra lived in the basement. Oh my god, that was terrible. That was awful that I did that. I didn't know.
I mean, what are you supposed to do?
I mean, yeah, like what else was I supposed to do? Not tell him that? I
Everybody was
felt,
telling their brother shit like this.
yeah, but it really scared him. Like I didn't. And actually, to be fair, it wasn't all me. It was one of the boys on the bus started it, and I think I like, laughed and said, "Yeah, the chupacabra's in the basement,"
Yeah, we
and
just went
like
along with it, but it was whatever. If you're
he's
listening,
still.
listen. You know who you are. If you're listening right now, we're sorry.
I'm
We
sorry. I'm
apologize
sorry.
for doing this to you.
The chupacabra does not live
But
in the basement.
he doesn't. But I
At,
want to
at
talk about what
least,
does live in that basement. What do you
uh,
what was your experience there? Like I felt like that basement was creepy. I guess I wasn't down there too much. to say one way or the other, but yeah, definitely a bad vibe down there.
Yeah, I don't. It's been so long. Like I didn't spend a ton of time. I mean, I was down there sometimes, like, but I definitely I always remember that feeling of running up the stairs, like when I was leaving the basement and feeling like, I don't know, just eerie, and I feel like there was something with the basement door too, because and you got to think about this basement, if I recall, was, I think it was a dirt floor, and if it wasn't a dirt floor, it was very like in not good condition. It wasn't like, if there was cement or something, it was cracked and crumbling. I remember there were foundation walls like around the basement, and they were crumbling, like they were not in good repair either. Um, and there was like, the windows were old, like there were small windows, and then I think there was a basement door, right? Like a cellar door sort of thing, like a
Yeah, there was a bulkhead.
bulkhead.
There was a bulkhead. So when you walked in the bulkhead, there was that little room right off to the right.
Right.
There was
That's
a
right. Yeah, there was.
window across from that, and then if you kept going, you would just go down. There was like the laundry area, or whatever. But yeah, it was like a
Yeah.
basement door.
Yeah. Very much like
Old. The
oh,
house
I
is
want to.
probably the house is probably built before 1900.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely a little bit older. I mean, it wasn't, super old like, colonial, but um yeah, it had its moments. I mean, it had very wide floors, and it still had like, I remember it had a clawfoot tub, and like pipes that went through the. You could see the holes in the floor where the pipes went through.
Yeah,
Like it was definitely older, and I mean, this was also in like the '90s, so this is a different kind of a different time. Although houses like this still exist, I'm not saying whatever, but so it definitely had a vibe, and it had, it's also in a section of Newport that, along Thames Street. It was one of those streets off of Thames Street, and that area is where, Newport began. Or early Newport, was along the water and along Thames Street. It did start in the Spring Street, Marlborough Street area, but Washington Square. But it grew up along the waterfront. So God knows how much history that area has seen. So yeah, that was definitely two of my most dramatic Newport ghost experiences. And there's some very famously haunted places. Um, I it's almost like they're regurgitated, but I guess they're definitely, we have like Belcourt Castle. Belcourt Castle has, since I believe it's been sold more recently, and by recently I mean in the past 20 years. um, but they used to do tours out of it, and it was built in the late 1800s. When was Belcourt Castle built? I was just reading about this, and to be honest, like I've been going pretty hard recently too, so my brain's not where it should be. Belcourt Castle. Let me get it in front of me. I know that it was bought in 1956 by the Tinney family, and
1891.
1891. All right, that's what I figured it was, something around there. Um, so there's a lot of stories from the people who lived from the Tinney family. Um, and I don't think that they still own it, or at least it. Like, I've been by there. I haven't been in it in several years, but I've been by it, and I don't know what's going on with it now. But I know that they, at least when I was younger, used to do tours, and I even went on tour with a. We went on. Me and a good friend of mine went on one of the Halloween tour, whatever. Like, they'll take you through, and they very much were very open about the hauntings of it, and some of the very famous stories are the suit of armor that screams,
Yep, I've heard of
It's
that one.
freaking, isn't that terrifying? Like it's in
I want
there.
to
I
see
think
it.
it's
I'm
a.
surprised I actually haven't, like just being so familiar and close to this area.
You've never seen the armor?
I don't think so. I think
What?
I might we when I was a kid we might have gone. I haven't been to the mansions in years, like since I was a kid. Like maybe once or twice. I went
So,
to I went to an event at the Astros Beachwood. It was someone's prom. I think I went to like a
oh right.
prom event, so that was still 20 plus years ago.
God, Newport is so cool. We did so like with like Newport Rec. We did a lot of those things like as
Yeah,
kids. Like,
yeah. I think that was probably when I did it.
well, I don't think that they
Yeah,
took us to the haunted Belcourt Castle.
they
However,
took us to some of those. I don't remember if it was Belcourt or not, but it's not like they believe that shit. They'll be like, "Oh, ha, ha, ha," and like
yeah, right.
kids want to do that stuff. Teenagers.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is we went and the armor specifically is it's in a I think it's a ballroom, but it's it's what you would think of as a ballroom. It's a grand room, and they have suits, or at least they did. They had suits of armor lined up, and it was just fascinating because they collect. They have a very big like antique and artwork collection, so they would collect things from like all over the world, and like that's what you would see on the tour. So a lot of these items they would say like had um, spirits attached to them, or energy attached to them. So one of these
Yeah,
things was the suit of armor. Apparently, I mean, I think I remember them saying that it was the whoever died in the armor. Somebody died in the armor, and that was them screaming. It's just, oh my god. So um, I guess there's a an experience that one of the tinnies had where when she first heard the armor screaming, she went to the kitchen to get something or something to that effect. And when she walked by the room, the ballroom, I think it's the ballroom, she was like, "Why are the lights on? Like, I just turned these lights off. Like, whatever." She goes down, goes to turn the lights off, and hears this god awful scream. She's like, oh, she gets startled. She thinks it's, I guess there were tenants on the third floor or something. She thinks it's the tenants messing with her. She's like, all right, whatever. Let me just get out of here. She goes back to the kitchen, gets whatever she's getting. As she's returning, she sees the lights are back on. She's like, all right, this is impossible. I just turned the lights off. There's nobody else, around. Like I would have heard something, not okay. So she goes, turns it back up. The thing screams again. I guess it was just this harrowing experience for her, and she finally went up to the tenants and was like, what the heck, or called them, and they're like, turns out it just wasn't them. And so, she's like, okay, well, I guess the armor is haunted. So, additionally, I guess they have. I remember them telling this story on the tour, and actually, now that I'm thinking of it, I think we did go to Belcourt with Newport Rec. But anyway, because I remember hearing the story of the monk, um, with the wreck when we went. This was a different tour than I went with my friend. So they have a statue of a monk, and I don't know the story behind the monk statue, where it came from or anything, but apparently it has a monk presence with it, and this monk haunts the castle. I guess they also have these two chairs, and I think they're called salt chairs, but they're old kingly kind of chairs, and people would sit in them and have these crazy energetic sort of experiences, and so much so that they finally had to rope them off, and nobody can sit in them anymore because the experiences just got to be so crazy. um, what the heck else? I'm trying to remember the other stories. Those are kind of like the greatest hits from Belcourt Castle that you always kind of hear about. um,
yeah, that's
and
interesting.
yeah, well, it is interesting because they collect things, and I believe that items can have energy. I absolutely believe that.
Well, so I'm just throwing something out there just because that sounds more to me like you're kind of like people sitting in chairs having these experiences, the energy tied to this one object. That sounds like we're kind of bordering on the occult. And given the fact that the Aleister Crowley house is right down the road, um,
Oh,
you know, maybe there's something going on there. That's another crazy one. Have you ever been in that house? That's actually
No.
that was recently renovated, but I remember probably around 2000 or 2001 going there like one Halloween night, and that is just ooh, that's a creepy vibe. Yeah.
You went to that house on Halloween?
Yes.
What the? I've never been to that. Honestly, I don't even know where it is, which is
Yeah, it's
crazy.
like it was one of those things. It was like you could. I mean, back then there was like you could get away with this stuff a little bit more. Like you could kind of screw around as a kid and go over there and try to get in whatever. And like
Oh, right, right.
you can only get in so far, but it seemed like it just didn't. We kind of got there thinking it was cool, and then ended up being like, yeah, I think we should leave. Let's
You
leave.
think?
It just yeah.
Oh my god! Oh, so wow, this
Do not
picture
enter.
is unfolding before me.
What?
I'm picturing like thunder and lightning cracking and like
Uh,
Halloween night. We should leave. Yeah, good call. Oh my god! No, I've never been there. I can only
just
imagine what happened when renovations happened.
oh my goodness. I
Right?
yeah yeah.
Let's hold on. Pause for the class. Who is Aleister Crowley?
Aleister Crowley, born Edward Alexander Crowley, was an English occultist, ceremonial magician, poet, novelist, mountaineer, and painter. He founded the religion of Thelema, identifying himself as the prophet entrusted with guiding humanity into the aeon of Horus in the early 20th century. A prolific writer, he published widely over the course of his life. So that's the Wikipedia definition of Aleister Crowley. Aleister Crowley was a prominent occultist. Aleister Crowley was the song that please don't hurt me because I don't know if this is Ozzy or Black Sabbath, but whoever did the song Mr. Crowley, it is about Aleister Crowley and his dealings in the occult. You could
Right.
read this and find that he mingled with these prominent, powerful people. He had these very elaborate lawn parties. He had these, stuff like just weird stuff. just weird, like just weird stuff. Yeah, you could look into
So
it.
where?
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't.
he had a house in Newport, Rhode Island, right down the road from the house we were just discussing, the Belcourt Castle. So that was that was just kind of my thought. I'm like, yeah, who knows? Like this is happening. This sort of stuff is happening in that area. These are like, different rich people. These people are hanging together. They're going to each other's fucking elaborate lawn parties.
When's it? When was he? When was he there? Like, what's his?
He was
1875 to 1947. Okay, so this is like turn of the century sort of area, early 1900s.
look at this guy. Like this his picture too. He just looks fucking yes, I'm staring into your soul. I'm deep and dark.
Oh, with the hand at the face.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a bow tie. A bow tie.
He's got a fucking bow tie.
It's got polka dots on it. So he wasn't living. Yeah, he just had like he's from England. Um, Edward Alexander Crowley. But yeah, he did seances at. I was just reading a thing about seances at 325 Ocean Ave, Newport's Rentham House, aka Indian Spring, at 325 Ocean Ave. So that I would have to see then in Google Maps just to have a.
Hold on, I'm looking at
That's. Oh, okay. That's right. That's right.
Is that his?
I'm.
Yeah.
Where are we? Kings Beach. So that's right where right before where the boat is. Everybody stops to take pictures. Right before where Bretton Road comes off of it. Yeah, that's like I don't even think you can. Oh, that's the one up on the hill, isn't it? You can see it on the left if you're going. Oh, okay.
So, yep.
Yeah. So if you're from Newport,
yeah, that's That's that house. It's all done now, done up now. But it's at
Yeah.
it was vacant for I don't even know how long. I don't even know who lives there now. If it's like his family or some other private seller. You could look this up.
Oh yeah, yeah. You can. I don't want to veer too far off into that, but yeah, I got a picture of it here. It's stone house with some turrets.
Yeah, it's
One
kind
of
of evil
them.
looking. It's definitely evil looking. Like this guy,
Yeah,
you look at his picture, like, oh yeah, he looks like a prominent occultist that held seances, and in the house, you're like, oh yeah, that looks like
yeah. But he also has that like I don't know. I always pictured him looking different, and he looks very. I don't know. I don't want to. It's hard to describe what he looks like, but yeah, just it's interesting the things. There's also sci-fi author H.G. Wells hung out with the same, you know, same people.
yeah, yeah. I've
Now
heard
that
of, I don't know, like J.R. Tolkien and all these these other authors and whatnot. Um,
yeah,
I feel like there's a lot of people who are associated with the occult throughout time. You know,
yeah, yeah.
I'm not great at
It's
talking. I'm not great at like talking about this stuff because I bring things up and then I'm like, oh, I don't necessarily have the information to talk about it. I just kind of speak generally sometimes.
right, right.
Yeah, it just seems
Yeah,
to me.
yeah. It's not a. I'm actually like I'm not very familiar with the like the Aleister Crowleys and those things. I just am. I'm not. Um, but it does play into. It's part of the Newport historyscape. And the creepiness. Like I wouldn't consider Newport a creepy place, and even the creepy places like aren't all that creepy, even though they're creepy. Newport just has a specific. I don't know, like the energy of Newport is unlike anywhere else I've ever been, and have yet to find a place that is like this. Some people say I had someone tell me one time that Kennebunkport, Maine is like Newport, and I'm like, no, it's not. Like
Yeah,
Newport's, like I'm like, yeah, I see where you're trying to make comparisons, but I really don't. I don't really see that.
don't talk to me,
Don't
peasant.
talk to me about Newport. I know
Kind
I'm
of
up.
Bunkport. Pa! Preposterous. How dare you? The thought alone.
Even like Mystic, Connecticut isn't like Newport. Like Newport is just, it's literally one of the oldest cities in the country. It's so historic. There's so many buildings still standing, and there's been fires, floods, um, hurricanes, whatever. Oh my god, sorry, my computer is just like, update your Creative Cloud. Shut up. Um, there's been so much, and one of my favorite things about Newport is walking anywhere, and you can just think of like how many people have walked right here before me. Like what has occurred right here for hundreds of years. You know what I mean? Um, it's a very fascinating place. There's lots of preservation now. Um, Speaking of wealthy people who do crazy shit, Doris Duke was very prominent in preservation of Newport. There was a long time there where Newport was, it started off as very, um, merchants, pirates, blah, 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 blah. Early city in America, was almost the capital of Rhode Island if it wasn't for a time. Um, and, once after the Revolutionary War, and like the British like burned it, or, a lot of things disappeared, and Newport almost fell into like, I don't want to say obscurity, but like it kind of fell off, in the after the Revolutionary War. And it wasn't until the preservation like movement kind of started to happen that it started to get preserved. So without that, we wouldn't Newport probably wouldn't be the way that it is today. There's houses that get brought in from other places, that historical houses. I didn't know that. I thought that they were all from Newport. They're not. Um, some of them have been moved, and it's really interesting how that shit works. But speaking of old buildings, historically the White Horse Tavern is one of the most haunted places in Newport, and interestingly, it's a place I've never effing been.
I've only been once, and actually recently.
Yeah, how was it?
It was okay. I mean, it's like really, it's a really small building. So like you sit at the bar, it's a very small room. Like you walk in and there's like an awkward kind of like reception area, and then it's
Yeah,
like it, very narrow. I mean, I think it was built, what, the 1750s or something, or maybe even earlier.
it's older than that.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Yeah. So,
it's hold on, I'll find the keep talking. I'll find the actual stats.
yeah. I mean, so it's kind of like, but it's cool. Like for I like this. I like that stuff. I like that. I like that old character. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So it's like in terms of like going out having a drink, it's kind of interesting. You can like, I'm also very ADD, so I can sit at the bar, have a drink, and just look at stuff. And there's like detail, like there's wooden accents on the ceiling. There's like like really detailed grain in the floors and like these custom built cabinets that have been there for hundreds of years and like all these cool things. So
Nice.
yeah, and I was kind of disappointed because I didn't see any ghosts.
What the hell?
Nothing. I just had
Nothing.
I just had a rum and coke, had a beer. That was it.
And that was it.
I mean, yeah, I was fine, but I mean,
How was your trip
sometimes you
to
want a
White
little
Horse?
more. Sometimes you just want the ghost.
I came here for the ghosts. So the White Horse Tavern is
I feel like
um
that general area. I feel like there's been a lot of skirmish
well, all
over
right.
time.
So the White Horse Tavern is right across the street from the Jailhouse Inn,
Yep.
and the White Horse Tavern is also across the street from the Quaker Meeting House, which is like on this huge field, right? Picture the Quaker Meeting House, which is a historic building, and right on that field was where the first governor, and for the love of God, his name was Nicholas Easton. There we are, Nicholas Easton. Apparently, Nicholas Easton's his house, cabin, whatever, used to be on that field, and it was burned by Indians at some point. Um, there's a Let's see. I'm not prepared for any of this discussion. Again, another casual discussion with New England Horror Files. So there's a thing, but also that area is where like,
We could probably do a part two of this if we really needed to.
well, we definitely could do like a part 8 and 9 of this. Um, so one of the first, like, we have the first spring is where Spring Park is right now, which I think is such a cool thing that they did. I mean, it's kind of weird the way they did it, that there's no fucking water at the spring park, but whatever. That's where the first spring was, and that's like right up the street from White Horse Tavern. So like the town started around that spring, but there was also a spring on Marlborough Street, and Marlborough Street was also like an important street. So and Farewell and Marlborough and Farewell goes all the way back to freaking the square, the spring square. You know what I mean? So that whole area is where the town started, and like Newport's not. Newport has a very rich pirate history,
Hmm.
and there was a lot of that like
They do a tour.
pirate
They do a
stuff.
walking
Yeah,
tour, and they do
they
a walking ghost tour for anybody interested in either of those things.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. If you go through Newport at almost any time at night, you might see the walking ghost tours because there's a person carrying like a lantern, and they've got like the black top hat and like a cloak, and they're leading the group around and through like historical Newport. It's pretty cool. I've always wanted to do one and I never have. But they do talk about the White Horse Tavern, which is one of them. White Horse Tavern was 1673. It's like one of the oldest buildings in Newport. It went through different transformations as it was a private residence. It was a tavern, obviously. I read something recently that it used to be like a courthouse where they would hold court, which I didn't actually know that. I'm not 100% sure if that's true, but apparently it was. It was owned by a pirate at one point. And like I said, Newport has very, very big pirate pirate history.
Yeah. Well, as a
Yeah,
matter of fact, a lot of the locations, like right where you're talking, where like Marlborough Street is and the White Horse Tavern, Jailhouse Inn, there's another area right over there where I think there was a small massacre or there was a surrender of I don't remember the names exactly. I don't remember all the details, but I'm just historically there was something significant there, and a number of the other stops on that same tour are pretty close by too. I think like a couple blocks from there, there was like I want to say they hung like 20, 21 pirates or something.
oh, that's down the way more. So, wait, let's go through the
That's
jail.
not that's a little off the beaten path. That's not quite there. But you know what? No, you know what is though is what was the other place I've heard things about is the Opera House. Somebody had told me
Yeah,
somebody told me personally that they worked there and they saw something in the projection rooms, which is fucking terrifying because I've seen those projection rooms and they're like dark and big and like
I'm like that just sounds not
because
not
well think
cool.
about it like think about it. You have to have one camera or not camera one projector on one screen. Let's say you have even I think Opera House has three or four screens, right? So like that's got to be like that has to be a big area. Like picture me walking down the middle. There's two projectors on either side, right?
Right.
So that's got to be like two projectors, so two theaters, you know. So think of like the size of that area for me to go front to the back. So if I have to
Right.
even the closest camera is a whole theater away. You know what I mean? Or half a theater away.
So,
Do you know what I'm saying? So it's got to
yeah.
be generally a larger area, and that happens to be a particularly like dark and old building.
Oh yeah, the Opera House. Like I'm not like I don't know all the total history about it, but yeah, it's like famously haunted. I guess they've done paranormal investigations there. Um, oh, hold on, make sure I got the right one because there's an opera house in Newport, New Hampshire that I guess is haunted. What? They're getting confused on the Google search. Actually, I should go look into that because this is Newport Daily News. This is actually okay. Paranormal themed event. The Opera House was built in 1867, so that's it's a little bit older. I guess there has been a lot of activity there. Jeez.
Oh shit!
There have also been apparently a strange amount of heart attacks in the building, loud crashes from nowhere. I guess they do ghost tours. It's part of the tour on one of the Washington Square ghost tour. But I guess there's this whole um, sorry, I'm also reading while I'm doing this. It starts as part of the tour. You go by in that same area. There's Parasolato, which used to be, I think it used to be La Petite Auberge. Do you remember? That's a little restaurant. I've never been to Parasolato, but on
I
Charles
have
Street.
one twice.
So Charles Street runs. It connects Marlborough Street to Washington Square. So Marlborough Street is where the White Horse Tavern and the Jailhouse Inn are, and then the Opera House is on the far side of Washington Square, and Charles Street connects. So apparently, Parasolato, it's a very small restaurant on Charles Street, is also reportedly haunted. I'm not entirely sure what all the stories are, but tours go by there. They'll bring you by there, and then by the Opera House, and hoping that you'll have an experience of some kind. I guess
Yeah.
like at the White Horse Tavern, apparently, um, a traveler in the 1700s came through and died there, and apparently he is haunting the place.
Oh, okay.
Uh huh.
There's a story behind it. See.
I guess so. Yeah, I guess that's the.
Yeah, there's all sorts of
Well,
stuff.
I used to live in an apartment in this area, and the apartment had a bathroom with no windows, and it was set up in such a way where if you opened the door, you could see like the shadow would it like the door would mess with the light. So you, in other words, just by the shadows in the room, you could tell if the door got opened while you were in the shower. So like the shower curtain was very dark. Like there wasn't um like it was there was no light. The only light was from the sink light. So anyway, I'm in the shower one day and I very clearly saw the light change as if the door had opened. And I'm like, oh, so and so just came in to use the bathroom or something. So I didn't quite think anything of it until like I didn't hear anything. So I peeked my head out and there's nobody in the bathroom. And I was like, all right, so I'm just going to shut this curtain and pretend that that didn't just happen. And I would often, the hallway there too, it's an L shape. So like it had like a long hallway from the kitchen to one area. Like it was just, there was a long hallway in the apartment. And I would always see out of the corner of my eye, I would see shadows in at the end of the hallway. Often it happened all the time. That apartment and that area was, there was a lot going on there. There was a lot of death in that area and a lot of like freak things that occurred. And some things that just like, what the hell? Like
What do you mean by freak things?
like well, I don't a resident in one of the other apartments, or a tenant in one of the other apartments, um, ended up unaliving himself with a reciprocating saw.
Ugh, God.
Then another tenant
Fucking
in one of
horrible
the
way to fucking do it.
yeah, what the fuck?
Like that's like seriously, dude.
How? Like what? I can't. I still have trouble talking about that because it was just so horrendous, and I knew him. You know what I mean? It was, and then there was there was a very frail little old lady. Like she was very very small. She was just like one of those frail old ladies. You know what I mean? And she was like beaten to death by this just this this younger bigger dude. And like she like fought with like everything. She was like 90. Like she was old, frail, thin. I mean, she still was mobile and got out and about every day, but um he like brutally beat her, and like she crawled out into the hallway like with an inch of her life kind of shit. Like it was just crazy, and there was just a lot of crazy shit that happened um in that apartment area. And so I don't know, like I tend to think of Newport. It's interesting. I tend to look at Newport with very rose-colored glasses, but now that I'm repeating these stories and like the hauntings in that apartment, and then another apartment that we had that was close by in the city. This is all in the same area. It's in the Broadway sort of Marlboro downtown like Spring Street area.
Well,
And of course,
if you go a couple blocks up, there was a number of incidents. Somebody was killed right over there, over by Cafe 200, not too long ago. I mean, I want to say it was 5 years ago. Realistically, it was probably more like 20. I'm busy.
I know, right? I do the same shit. Oh well,
I don't understand. I don't understand the concept of time when it's like, I just remember hearing about that, and then one of the owners of one of the restaurants was walking home, and he was beaten up like badly.
I remember that. Oh yeah. And actually, I worked with somebody years back who got robbed in the same area. Well, you're talking about Cafe 200, Gold Street.
Yep, it's something else now. What is it now?
Oh, what is it now? Yeah, it's not Cafe
I forget.
200.
It's not Cafe 200 anymore. But yeah, Gould Street over there across from the post office.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I love Newport, and I tend to always think of Newport very very lovingly. And I tend to forget that these things have happened there in my time. And as much as Newport's really awesome, and it's a very big I mean, huge tourism. It's very much And as an aside, one thing I would love to do is you always see all these Newport videos. If you go on you just search it up, go on YouTube, and you'll see going to Newport, Rhode Island. It's all about freaking lobster rolls and freaking shopping and what hotel you stayed at. But really, like, there's another side of Newport that's very seedy and very, like, it's great, but it's also seedy. Like, geez, there was recently, like, I don't even want to get into that story, and I'm not trying to go into the crime of Newport. However, the point that I'm saying is how much has happened in Newport and, like, over the years. And even today, Newport still has, there's still crime there. I consider Newport very safe, but there are still tragedies that occur. And so, like, throughout time, there have been a lot of tragedies that have occurred. Lots of death, lots of, you mentioned the pirate hanging, and yes, in Newport there was, um, on the high seas. I don't remember the entire story, but on the high seas, there was this whole pirate activity thing, and they got caught, and they got tried, and they got found guilty of piracy or whatever. And I forget all of the details of it, but it was one of the largest public executions in history that took place right in Newport. And I believe it was 23 pirates were hanged at Gravely Point on Long Wharf. Long Wharf is, if you were to continue down from Washington Square, the Washington Square just continues into Long Wharf. It's like connected. It's like one long street. And Long Wharf used to be one long wharf, because there was a marsh down there, and it was set up very differently back in the day. There were docks and tons of merchant activity, and we're going back into colonial times, pre-colonial. But I think this is the 17. Was it the 1720s that 17? I believe it was the 1720s that they were hung. But like, stuff like that happened in Newport, and that's a you know
Sorry, I'm not sure.
yeah, I'm gonna hang it up. Hang it up. Look it up. Jeez. 26 pirates hanged at Newport in 1723. So
1723. Yes.
what's interesting about that area is when you go down there, like, I feel nothing but, like, it's it's almost like, I don't have the words for that, because the feng shui of that area is very different from the house. Because if you're at that, you've got the ocean breeze coming in, and it's like it dissipates the energy of the death. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if you know anything about feng shui, but that's kind of, I think a lot about feng shui. So,
I mean, I know
yeah.
about feng shui. I don't think about it. Wait, isn't it? I don't know.
So one more. What's one more haunted location, whether it's personal or um famous? Oh my god, I have a story. Okay, I actually have a
Definitely another mansion.
Carrie Mansion. Carrie Mansion is, like, famously freaking haunted. This is so fun. I actually have okay, let's the haunted Carrie Mansion. I guess the show Dark Shadows was filmed there, and I think I've heard that there was all sorts of issues on the set. It is by the Salve campus, and it's, like, behind fencing. They're like, no.
Oh yeah, and Salve, parts of Salve, Ochre Court is haunted.
Yeah. Yeah, Salve is just fucked in its own damn right, but whatever. And, like, the cliff walk is trying to run away from it, literally. So there's that. Oh my god. Oh, Salve. That's why those kids are so. No, sorry. So, part of my story about Carrie Mansion, um, So apparently, like, somebody, a nun unalived herself there. Somebody's wife, the previous owner, um, Edson Bradley's wife, died while they lived there. He held her funeral in the chapel located within the mansion. Then he passed away. Apparently, they still haunt the mansion, and there's just all sorts of issues at Carey Mansion. It's been the subject of investigations and paranormal this, and TV shows have gone there, and it's like, it's a very haunted feature, and like you cannot get in there. Like um, it's now like it's hard to even see from the road.
Yeah, a lot of people say Ochre. What is it? Ochre Court.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Yeah.
Ochre Court. I don't know if there's any stories behind it.
I mean, I'm sure there is. I'm just trying to think of something like I've heard a few things in passing, but I've heard a lot of them. You know.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I'm not sure.
I mean, to be fair, I've probably heard about like almost any building on the island. Like it's so frequent. It's funny because people say, and I believe this too, and I'm not saying it's not, but they say that Gettysburg is like the most haunted place in America. I mean, realistically, Newport is probably actually the most haunted place in America if you think about it. Because I don't
think about it, man.
Just think about it.
They're controlling us. Like ghosts, man. Think about it.
It's
not that kind of podcast.
Wait a minute. Wait,
no. It's not that kind of podcast.
Turn back. Abort mission. I think almost I've worked in a lot of places in Newport, and I know a lot of people who've worked in places in Newport, and like every place is haunted in Newport. They say the city hall is haunted. I know
City
somebody
Hall is definitely fucking haunted. I've been in that building and it just feels creepy. I'm like, I just don't want to go in the basement. Like, I know the Register of Deeds is in the basement, and I need to talk to them about something.
You're like, shit, I can do this next year.
I'm standing at the elevator. I'm like telling myself, I can do this.
Dude, even the elevator is creepy. I can do this.
Oh my god,
you got this, man. It's like the city hall.
There's so much. There really is so much. Like I've heard over the years, like restaurant workers in particular probably have the most stories that I've just kind of heard, or like hotel workers type thing, hospitality.
Oh, I could tell you about hotels. Like I worked in a lot. Not Castle Hill, Ocean Cliff. The basement of, speaking of basements, the basement of Ocean Cliff is creepy. I'll tell you what though, like I didn't have too many. I don't recall any experiences at Ocean Cliff. The basement though was definitely odd. It definitely had like this, and maybe it was just the way that it was built. I don't know, but it definitely had a feeling to it. Yeah. Mill Street Inn was another place. Oh, the Yankee Peddler Inn is a place that I worked at. I worked all over the place. It was such. I'll tell you what though, working haunted or not, working in Newport, in my younger years was definitely a very good experience. Like I think it was just so good, and I got to work at places like the Yankee Peddler Inn, which is like a very historic inn. It's actually, I worked there because it's part of a hotel group. It's called, I think, well, this is back in the day. I don't know what it is now. It used to be, I think, Newport Historic Inns, and that would include Yankee Peddler. And Yankee Peddler was very, very old. And upstairs there was, I think it was room 8. People always reported just things with room 8. I remember, yeah, it was a very colonial building. I think it was 3 floors. It was an inn, gorgeous inn. I mean, it was beautiful. Very historic rooms, canopy beds and all, hardwood floors. And it's just, gosh, some of the architecture in Newport and, decor is just gorgeous. But yeah, there was,
it really is.
Yeah. And Yankee Peddler was just, I remember feeling uneasy in room 8 also. Didn't exactly have an experience, but felt uneasy. But people reported it a lot in room 8. I believe that was on the 3rd floor, if my memory serves me correctly. It's been a long time, but Mill Street Inn was another one. Mill Street Inn used to be. I haven't worked there in so long. I feel like it used to be like a mill, and it had some things like there was. I think there was different parts, like the new part and the old part. Um, my husband actually has a story from there with. I think he walked in and out of nowhere, like a huge picture like came crashing down right behind him, but not like there was no door slamming or anything. It was like completely unprovoked. You know what I mean? It was like, what
Yeah.
the hell? I almost just died, kind of thing. He's got a lot of stories from Newport also. Um, yeah, I like literally you could probably pick any place and it's probably haunted. So like it's very much like life hauntings and like just over the course of time. It's different from Gettysburg, and Gettysburg was very tragic, wartime incident with tons of casualties, and Newport's more like since the beginning of Newport, all the people have died there, and the disturbed graves and the lost graves and burials at sea, and there's the pirates who were hanged were buried in a mass grave on Goat Island, was it?
Yeah.
I believe it was Goat Island. And Newport was a Newport. Rhode Island historically was it started because it was very tolerant of other kinds of people and different religions, and Roger Williams fought. He did some other things that weren't in this vein, but he did fight for Native Americans to be recognized as a whole, just another culture and not anything less than us. So that's kind of where Newport started. um but there's also the King Philip's War and the French and Indian Wars that we discussed. And while Newport was largely unharmed, and actually a lot of people took refuge in Newport during that time, that kind of stuff was going on around it. So, there's Newport's seen a lot. It maintains a
Sure.
very it maintains a very good energy. But I mean, there's a guy was found in a damn porta potty like last year or something. Like there's still a lot of shit that goes on there. There's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of drinking and a lot of.
Well, that's
There's a shit ton.
everywhere.
Oh my god, it's like you could smell the alcohol as soon as you get downtown. It's like holy shit. So like there's a lot of that, and there's always drama. There's just always drama. But I mean, I don't know. Newport's definitely haunted. I wouldn't expect to go to a hotel in Newport, even Motel 6. Forget about it. Like I wouldn't expect to go anywhere and not have it be haunted. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Newport is haunted.
For sure, for sure. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's some great stuff we talked about. I mean, I definitely love to. I feel like there's a lot more we need to kind of circle back to and get around to. Maybe we'll do a part two.